Schrupp, physical therapist.
And my name is Brad Heineck, physical therapist.
And today we are going to answer the question that is on the lips of all of America. That is, what is the rotator cuff?
Or how do you pronounce the rotator cuff?
Right. Let's start off with terminology first because we...
Just wait, Bob, I got to get this cervical collar off. I was just testing it out. I had a patient from Canada call me last night, and this was one of the things that she was missing on her Epley's remover treatment. So I wanted to try it out to make sure I could give her a referring reference to something, a good product. So we're fine now.
I'm sure glad you have that in our rotator cuff video because it fits really well. Anyway, just to make sure we're correct on terminology, the first we hear patients say it. Generally, they say it wrong. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say it right. It is not rotary cuff.
The Rotary is a group and organization.
That's right, non-profit organization.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It is not.
It's a good organization, by the way.
Yeah. It's not Rotary Cup. This is the worst one. Both words are wrong here.
Yeah, not a cup.
Yeah. It is not Rotator Cup.
Again, cup. No,
Okay.
no cups.
We're getting closer though. It is, ta-da, Rotator Cuff.
There. So now we've defined the proper spelling and pronunciation. Now let's look at the actual model and see what the rotator cuff is, because most people are, hear it all the time from physicians and medical staff, but really don't have a good concept.
It's a very, very common injury.
Absolutely.
I think Brad and I see a lot of the elderly, and to be honest with you, I bet you 50% of the elderly I see have some type of rotator cuff injury. Most of them haven't been repaired. They just, they hurt it and they're in their 80s and they just let it go.
Sure.
So the rotator cuff consists of 4 muscles around the shoulder. So there's actually not just one, it's not a one muscle thing, it's actually 4 muscles. So to take a better look at it, we're going to take a scalpel to Brad and we're going to take a look inside the shoulder. Actually no, we're just going to use a model. So what we're going to do...
Joke. But I see this a lot, baseball players, swimmers,
yeah.
They all have, any arm motion that goes over the top will produce this.
And think about, you'll see this, why this makes sense. You've got 4 basically very short muscles that have to control a real long lever arm. So this is basic physics, right, Brad?
Exactly.
I mean, you got, this short thing that has to provide enough force to run this huge lever arm. So there's a lot of stress on these muscles. I see in a lot of the elderly, they can be doing as simply as reaching back in their car and tear a muscle.
Right.
The part of the problem when you get older is the circulation to the muscles and the tendons actually decreases up in the shoulder, and that's why it's very easy to tear one of the muscles.
What is this, Bob?
This is the shoulder, and
can we zoom in on that?
Okay, this would be perfectly, this is how it would match up on Brad. This is your collarbone, okay? This is the shoulder blade, and it's covered with muscles on both the front and the back, okay?
So actually, if you hold that where it actually is, it's right there. Now.
Turn around, Brad.
Yep. If I lift my arm up like that, can you show how that shoulder blade's going to...
The shoulder blade actually rotates like that, okay? So, the rotator cuff. And then this is the humerus, or the bone that attaches into the shoulder blade. We got kind of a ball and socket is what we have.
Right.
Okay? And the 4 muscles, one thing, if you just as a point of reference, they all start from the shoulder blade, and they all end up on the humerus, or the bone that goes into the socket.
The ball part.
The ball part.
Mm-hmm.
So they all start on the shoulder blade, they all end up here. They start end. And they're either on the front or they're on the back. Alright? So we have, it's what, do you remember the acronym SITS? S-I-T-S?
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we have the supraspinatus. Now, right now if I'm looking at this correctly, this would be behind Brad.
Right, that would be.
So it'll be like this.
And the supraspinatus is probably, and far and by the most injured rotator cuff muscle of all 4 of them.
Quite often it is injured. It does a lot of work. So supraspinatus, supra just means above this spine here, and that's why it's called the supra, above spinatus. Infraspinatus, which is below the spine. Okay. Now we're back. Well, we also have the teres minor.
Oh, don't forget about teres minor.
How could I have forgotten about
and teres major. It's
So,
like Ursa Minor and Ursa Major in the stars.
Right.
So, yeah, but
and teres major probably does contribute a little bit, but teres major is not part of the rotator cuff. It's teres minor, The little one here. Are you seeing any of this, Lindsay? Is she awake? I think so. Okay. All right. Now we'll go back to the front. All right.
Now this is interesting because the front of the shoulder blade is actually on your back side between the shoulder blade and your ribs.
Right.
So
exactly.
to get in there is, you know, you'd have to stick your fingers between your ribs and underneath the shoulder blade.
Yeah, you know, if you're right here, yeah, we got a rib cage here and a rib cage here. That's in the way of seeing this.
And the shoulder is actually it's a complicated joint overall.
It is a very complicated joint. So this whole big muscle here is the subscapularis. All right, so that's the four muscles. Basically, the four muscles, one of the main things they do is they help hold that ball up into the socket. And that needs to be done in order for the arm to move. And then some of the other movements come, some of the other muscles come in and help it move.
Right.
And they help too with that regard. But that's one of the reasons when you hurt your rotator cuff, generally one of the tests that we do is the drop arm test. Like we'll have it lifted up and we push on it, it often just gives way. It just, yeah, you can't hold it at all. That's kind of a classic sign of a rotator cuff injury. Anything else you want to add, Brad?
Well, one thing I do explain to my patients, I always say the rotator cuff muscles are the smaller muscles that stabilize the joint, that keep the joint where it's supposed to be. And then the other deltoid muscles, the big ones, they're the ones that are actually going to move material and move some weight. When the rotator cuff muscles get weak and they fail to do their job, then injuries start to occur. Tendons get pinched and soft tissue gets pinched, irritation starts, inflammation, and then you can develop your tendinitises, your bursitis because you have bursts in your shoulder joint, etc., etc. And yeah, the therapists are kind of fun to work with because you can usually get them better through some therapy and some therapeutic exercises. And
well, one of the things that is amazing is how these four muscles have to work together. It's a very coordinated movement
Sure.
in order to do what they do. And that's where, when one gets injured and that rhythm gets thrown off, that's where you see people unable to lift their arm.
Yep,
So,
yeah, exactly. A lot of classic signs you'll see with shoulder problems that are typical from one person to the next.
so again, it's rotator
Cuff.
cuff.
C-U-F-F, cuff. I love it.